The yacht, Second Chance, should have returned to Miami Beach Marina by sunset on October 12, 2002. Instead, it vanished into the Atlantic Ocean along with the Morrison family of four, leaving behind one of the most baffling maritime mysteries in Florida's history. What investigators would discover 22 years later would challenge everything they thought they knew about that fateful day. The morning sun cast golden reflections across the pristine waters of Miami Beach as David Morrison, a successful real estate developer, made final preparations aboard his prized 45-foot yacht. The Second Chance was more than just a boat to David. It represented his comeback from near bankruptcy 5 years earlier, a symbol of resilience that had earned its name through his own life's journey. "Dad, are you sure we have enough fuel for the day?" 16-year-old Jake Morrison called out from the dock, his sandy brown hair catching the morning breeze. As the older twin by 12 minutes, Jake had inherited his father's practical nature and attention to detail. "More than enough, son. We've got a full tank and backup reserves," David replied, checking the gauges one final time. His weathered hands, scarred from years of construction work before his business success, moved with practiced precision across the instrument panel. Sarah Morrison emerged from the marina's convenience store, her arms laden with supplies for their day-long celebration. At 42, she maintained the grace and energy that had first captivated David 20 years earlier when they met at a University of Miami alumni event. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the bright yellow windbreaker that David had bought her for their anniversary. "I got extra sunscreen, water bottles, and those sandwiches you love from the deli," she announced, passing bags to her daughter Emma, who had been sketching the marina's boats in her ever-present art journal. Emma Morrison, Jake's twin sister, possessed an artist's eye for detail that often noticed things others missed. Where Jake was outgoing and athletic, Emma was contemplative and observant. She looked up from her sketch of a pelican perched on a nearby piling, her green eyes, a mirror of her mother's, sparkling with excitement. "This is going to be the perfect day for my marine life project," Emma said, tucking her journal into a waterproof bag. "Professor Martinez said the coral reefs about 15 miles out are supposed to have incredible biodiversity this time of year." The Morrison family was celebrating a milestone. David's real estate firm had just closed its biggest deal ever, a luxury resort development that would secure their financial future. But more importantly, it was Sarah's birthday, and David had planned a special surprise at their favorite spot near Stiltsville, the collection of houses built on stilts in the middle of Biscayne Bay. At exactly 9:17 a.m., according to marina records, the Second Chance departed from Slip 47 at Miami Beach Marina. The harbor master, Roberto Valdez, had been working the docks for over 15 years and knew the Morrison family well. They were regular customers, responsible boaters who always filed proper float plans and maintained their vessel meticulously. "Beautiful day for it, David," Roberto called out as the yacht's engines rumbled to life. The twin Mercury outboards purred with the smooth confidence of well-maintained machinery. "Couldn't ask for better weather," David responded, giving a casual wave. "We'll be back before 6. Sarah's got dinner plans with her sister." Roberto noted the time in the marina log, a routine entry that would later become crucial evidence in the investigation. The family appeared relaxed and excited, with no indication of any problems or concerns. The weather forecast called for calm seas with winds under 10 knots, perfect conditions for a day of cruising and snorkeling. As the Second Chance navigated out of the marina's no-wake zone, other boaters noticed the Morrison family's obvious excitement. Captain Tony Restrepo, a charter fishing guide preparing his own boat for a client trip, watched them pass with a friendly nod. The kids were pointing at everything. Dolphins, the cruise ships, you name it, Restrepo would later tell investigators. They looked like any other family heading out for a perfect day on the water. Nothing seemed off, Nothing at all. And dirt. The yacht's GPS system showed their initial course heading southeast toward the reef systems that Emma was eager to explore for her school project. David had promised to anchor near some of the area's most pristine coral formations, spots he'd discovered during his own diving expeditions in the years following his business recovery. According to the float plan David had filed with the Coast Guard, their itinerary was straightforward and well within the family's experience level. First, they would cruise to a shallow reef area approximately 12 miles southeast of Miami Beach, where Emma could observe and photograph marine life for her advanced biology project. The location was one of David's favorites, a protected area where the coral formations created natural swimming pools perfect for snorkeling. After spending the morning at the reef, they planned to head west toward Stiltsville, the historic collection of structures built on stilts in the shallow waters of Biscayne Bay. David had arranged for a catered lunch to be waiting at one of the houses, a birthday surprise for Sarah that he'd been planning for weeks. "Your mom has no idea," David had confided to the twins the previous evening. "I've got her favorite seafood spread from Joe's Stone Crab, and I even arranged for the quartet that played at our wedding to be there via video call." The surprise lunch was scheduled for 1 p.m., giving them plenty of time for the morning's diving and photography session. After lunch, they planned to spend the afternoon exploring the historic structures and enjoying the unique perspective of Miami's skyline from the middle of Biscayne Bay. Sarah's sister, Maria, was expecting them for dinner at 7:30 p.m. at a restaurant in South Beach, a detail that would later provide investigators with a crucial timeline for when the family should have returned to shore. The first sign that something might be amiss came at 11:43 a.m. when the Coast Guard's automated monitoring system recorded an unusual transmission from the Second Chances emergency beacon. The signal lasted only 37 seconds and contained fragmented GPS coordinates, placing the yacht approximately 14 miles southeast of Miami Beach, close to their planned first destination. Petty Officer Lisa Chen was monitoring communications at Coast Guard Station Miami Beach when the transmission came through. Years later, she would describe the signal as garbled but not distressed, indicating possible equipment malfunction rather than an emergency. "We logged it as a routine technical glitch," Chen explained. "The coordinates put them in their planned location, and we'd been seeing similar false alarms all week due to solar flare activity affecting satellite communications." What investigators would later discover was that this transmission contained crucial information that might have prevented the tragedy, if anyone had been able to decode it properly at the time. Meanwhile, at the reef location, marine biologist Dr. Jennifer Walsh was conducting her own research dive from her university vessel. Her underwater cameras captured footage that would become central to the investigation, though she wouldn't realize the significance until years later. "I remember seeing a yacht anchored about a quarter mile from our position," Dr. Walsh recalled. "There were people in the water, looked like a family snorkeling. Everything appeared normal, peaceful even. The water was crystal clear, visibility was excellent." Her timestamp records showed the sighting at 11:52 a.m., just 9 minutes after the mysterious beacon transmission. The footage shows figures in the water near what appears to be the Second Chance, but the distance and underwater angle make positive identification difficult. At 12:15 p.m., David Morrison made his last confirmed radio contact with the outside world. He called the catering company handling Sarah's surprise lunch to confirm the delivery timing at Stiltsville. The conversation was brief and routine, with David sounding relaxed and excited about the afternoon's plans. "Tell them we're running about 15 minutes ahead of schedule," David told the caterer's dispatch. "The morning dive session was incredible. Emma got some amazing footage of a sea turtle family. The caterer's records show the call lasted 3 minutes and 42 seconds, with David providing an updated ETA of 12:45 p.m. for their arrival at Stiltsville. This would prove to be the last communication from anyone aboard the Second Chance. What happened in the following hours remains one of the most puzzling aspects of the Morrison family's disappearance. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a yacht matching the Second Chance's description in various locations throughout the afternoon, but none of these sightings could be definitively confirmed. At 1:20 p.m., Charter Captain Miguel Santos reported seeing a white yacht with blue trim anchored near the Stiltsville area. "I waved to the people on deck, but they didn't wave back," Santos later told investigators. "Struck me as odd, because boaters are usually friendly out there, but I figured maybe they were busy with something." However, the catering crew waiting at Stiltsville reported no sign of the Morrison family or their yacht. They waited until 2:30 p.m. before calling David's cell phone, which went directly to voicemail. The catered lunch sat untouched as concern began to grow. By 6 p.m., when the Second Chance had failed to return to Miami Beach Marina, Roberto Valdez began making inquiries. His initial calls to David's cell phone and the yacht's radio went unanswered, prompting him to contact the Coast Guard at 6:47 p.m. This wasn't like the Morrisons, Valdez emphasized to the Coast Guard dispatcher. David was military precise about his timing. If he said 6 o'clock, he meant 6 o'clock. Something was wrong. Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres initiated a preliminary search protocol at 7:15 p.m., dispatching 2 patrol boats to retrace the Morrison family's planned route. The search began in the reef area where they were supposed to have spent the morning, but initial sweeps revealed no sign of the yacht or any debris. At 7:30 p.m., Sarah's sister Maria called the marina when the family failed to appear for their dinner reservation. Her conversation with Roberto Valdez confirmed their worst fears. The Morrison family was officially missing. "Sarah never missed anything without calling," Maria told investigators later. "She was the most reliable person I knew. When she didn't show up and wasn't answering her phone, I knew something terrible had happened." The Coast Guard expanded their search at 8 p.m., bringing in additional vessels and requesting helicopter support. As darkness fell over the Atlantic, the search took on an increasingly urgent tone. Weather conditions remained calm, ruling out storms or rough seas as factors in the disappearance. As the first night of searching progressed, investigators began uncovering puzzling details that would haunt the case for decades. The yacht's GPS tracking system showed the Second Chance had visited its planned locations, but had also made several unexplained stops in deeper waters beyond the continental shelf. Coast Guard technician Mark Patterson was analyzing the tracking data when he noticed the anomalies. The GPS showed them making course changes that didn't match their filed float plan, Patterson explained. They went to coordinates that weren't on any reef charts, deep water areas with no recreational value. Even more mysterious was the discovery that the yacht's automatic identification system had been manually disabled sometime after 2 p.m. This was highly unusual for recreational boaters and suggested either equipment failure or deliberate action. By midnight on October 13th, search aircraft had covered over 2,000 square miles of ocean without finding any trace of the Second Chance or its occupants. The yacht had seemingly vanished without leaving any debris field, oil slick, or distress signals that would typically indicate a maritime accident. As Coast Guard crews prepared for another day of searching, investigators began to consider the possibility that this was more than a simple boating accident. The Morrison family's disappearance was evolving into something far more complex and sinister than anyone had initially imagined. The questions that would plague investigators for the next 22 years were already emerging. What had led the Morrison family to deviate from their planned route? Why had they disabled their tracking systems? And most haunting of all, What had they discovered in those deep waters that might have cost them their lives? The answers lay hidden beneath the waves, waiting in the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean floor, aboard a yacht whose lights would mysteriously continue burning for more than 2 decades. The search for the Morrison family stretched from days into weeks, from weeks into months, and eventually from months into years. What began as a routine Coast Guard rescue operation evolved into one of the most extensive maritime investigations in Florida's history, generating thousands of pages of reports, dozens of theories, and ultimately no answers. Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres had overseen hundreds of search and rescue operations during her 15-year career, but the Morrison case would haunt her long after her retirement. The search effort that began on the evening of October 12, 2002, would eventually span 6 months of active investigation and involve resources from multiple agencies. "We threw everything we had at finding that family," Torres recalled years later. "Coast Guard cutters, helicopters, dive teams, civilian volunteer boats. We had over 60 vessels searching at the peak of the operation. The ocean just swallowed them whole." The initial search grid covered 4,500 square miles of Atlantic Ocean, extending from the shallow reefs near Miami Beach to the deep waters of the Gulf Stream. Coast Guard aircraft flew pattern searches for 12 hours daily, their crews scanning endless expanses of blue water for any sign of the missing yacht or its occupants. On the 3rd day of searching, Marine Patrol Officer Kevin Marsh spotted what appeared to be debris floating approximately 18 miles southeast of Miami Beach. The discovery sent a surge of hope through the search teams, but closer inspection revealed the wreckage to be from an unrelated vessel that had been reported missing 3 years earlier. "False leads became a constant source of frustration," explained Detective Sarah Kim of the Miami-Dade Police Department, who was assigned to coordinate the land-based investigation. "Every piece of floating debris, every sonar anomaly, every witness report had to be thoroughly investigated. Most led nowhere. The witness reports were particularly challenging to verify. In the days following the disappearance, dozens of people came forward claiming to have seen the second chance or the Morrison family. Charterboat captain Elena Rodriguez reported seeing a yacht matching the description anchored near a remote key approximately 30 miles south of Miami Beach on the afternoon of October 12th. I remember it clearly because there were people on deck who seemed to be having some kind of argument," Rodriguez told investigators. "A man was gesturing wildly while a woman and 2 teenagers stood nearby. But when I tried to hail them on the radio, they didn't respond." However, Rodriguez's account contained a crucial inconsistency. She described the yacht as having red trim, while the second chance was distinctively white with blue accents. When investigators showed her photographs of the Morrison yacht, she became less certain of her identification. Dr. Michael Hoffman, a forensic psychologist who consulted on the case, explained the challenges of eyewitness testimony in maritime investigations. "The ocean is a vast, featureless environment where distances are difficult to judge and details can become distorted by sun glare, waves, and wishful thinking. Witnesses want to help, but memory is remarkably unreliable under these conditions." The most promising lead came from satellite data analysis conducted by NASA technician James Barrett. Commercial imaging satellites had captured photographs of the search area on October 12th, and Barrett spent weeks examining the images for any sign of the missing yacht. "I found what appeared to be a vessel in deep water, approximately 40 miles southeast of Miami Beach," Barrett reported. "The object was roughly the right size and shape, but the image quality made positive identification impossible. The satellite image showed a white object on the ocean surface at 2:47 p.m. on October 12th, hours after David Morrison's last radio contact. However, the coordinates placed the vessel in waters over 800 feet deep, far beyond the recreational diving depths the family had planned to explore. Coast Guard diving teams attempted to investigate the satellite coordinates, but the extreme depth and strong currents made thorough searching impossible with available technology. The mysterious object, if it was indeed the second chance, had vanished from subsequent satellite passes. As weeks turned into months, the official search effort was gradually scaled back. By December 2002, only periodic helicopter patrols continued to sweep the search area. The Morrison family had been officially declared missing, but not yet presumed dead, a legal distinction that would complicate insurance claims and estate proceedings for years to come. David Morrison's business partner, Robert Chen, found himself thrust into the role of managing the family's affairs while hoping for their return. I kept expecting David to walk through the office door with some incredible story about being stranded on a remote island, Chen remembered. The idea that they were gone forever seemed impossible. The financial investigation revealed no obvious motives for the family to disappear voluntarily. David's real estate company was thriving, with several major projects in development. The family's bank accounts showed no unusual activity in the weeks before their disappearance, and there were no large withdrawals or transfers that might indicate flight preparation. However, investigators did discover some puzzling financial details. David had recently increased his life insurance coverage to $2 million and had purchased additional maritime insurance for the second chance, just 6 weeks before the disappearance. While these actions weren't necessarily suspicious, successful businessmen often adjust their insurance coverage. They raised questions about David's state of mind in the weeks before the trip. Sarah Morrison's sister Maria became the family's unofficial spokesperson during the investigation. Her emotional appeals for information generated significant media attention, but also attracted the attention of psychics, conspiracy theorists, and well-meaning but misguided amateur investigators. The worst part was the false hope, Maria explained. Someone would call claiming to have seen Sarah at a grocery store in Key West, or Emma at a beach in the Bahamas. Each call sent my heart racing, but they all turned out to be cases of mistaken identity. The case attracted national media attention when investigative journalist Patricia Vega published a series of articles suggesting the Morrison family's disappearance was connected to David's real estate dealings. Vega's reporting revealed that David had been involved in a contentious land development project that had displaced several families from a historically significant area near Homestead. David Morrison had made enemies, Vega wrote. His Coral Gables resort project had faced significant opposition from environmental groups and displaced residents. Some of these people had made threats against him and his family. FBI agent Thomas Rodriguez was assigned to investigate the potential connection between David's business activities and the family's disappearance. His team conducted extensive interviews with individuals who had opposed David's development projects, but found no credible evidence of foul play. We investigated every threat, every angry letter, every disgruntled contractor, Rodriguez reported. David Morrison was a tough businessman, but he operated within the law. We found no indication that his business dealings were connected to his family's disappearance. The investigation took an unusual turn in early 2003 when marine archaeologist Dr. Amanda Foster approached investigators with a theory about the family's fate. Foster had been studying historical shipwrecks in the area and had discovered references to unusual magnetic anomalies in the waters where the Morrison family had last been seen. The ocean floor in that region contains several unexplored cave systems and underwater formations that could easily trap a vessel, Foster explained. If the second chance had experienced mechanical problems and drifted into one of these areas, it could have become hidden from surface searches. Foster's theory gained credibility when she presented sonar data showing previously unmapped underwater structures in the search area. The formations included what appeared to be large caverns and overhangs that could conceivably hide a 45-foot yacht from detection. Coast Guard diving teams conducted limited explorations of Foster's suggested areas, but the extreme depths and dangerous conditions prevented thorough investigation. The underwater caves would require specialized deep-water equipment and expert cave divers, resources that were beyond the scope of the search operation. As 2003 progressed, the active investigation gradually shifted to a cold case status. The file remained open, but new leads had dried up and the search had exhausted available resources. The Morrison family joined the ranks of America's most baffling missing persons cases. The case experienced brief resurgences of attention over the years. In 2005, Hurricane Wilma's storm surge uncovered what appeared to be yacht parts on a remote beach in the Florida Keys. DNA testing confirmed the fragments came from a vessel similar to the Second Chance, but chemical analysis revealed they had been in the water for much longer than 3 years. In 2008, a commercial fishing crew reported finding a waterproof bag containing what appeared to be Emma Morrison's art supplies floating near the Bahamas. The bag contained sketches dated October 2002, including drawings of marine life that matched Emma's known artistic style. However, forensic analysis determined the sketches were sophisticated forgeries, likely created by someone familiar with Emma's work. The false evidence was traced to a disturbed individual who had become obsessed with the Morrison case and had spent years creating fake artifacts. The incident highlighted the challenge of investigating a case that had captured public imagination. Separating genuine leads from attention-seeking hoaxes became increasingly difficult. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the marine biologist who had been diving near the Morrison family on their last day, continued her research in the area and occasionally reported her observations to investigators. In 2010, she discovered what appeared to be recent anchor damage on a coral reef approximately 2 miles from where she had last seen the Second Chance. The scarring was consistent with a large yacht having anchored there recently, Walsh reported. The coral damage patterns suggested the vessel had been there for an extended period, not just a brief stop. However, the anchor damage was in an area that had been thoroughly searched multiple times during the initial investigation. If the Second Chance had been anchored there, it had somehow evaded detection by dozens of search aircraft and vessels. The psychological toll on investigators and the Morrison family's friends became apparent as the years passed. Several Coast Guard personnel who had participated in the search requested transfers to other assignments, unable to cope with the failure to find the family. Roberto Valdez, the Marina harbor master who had last seen the family depart, developed a nightly ritual of walking to the end of the pier and scanning the horizon for the Second Chance. His colleagues worried about his mental health as his behavior became increasingly obsessive. "I feel responsible," Valdez confided to a friend. "I was the last person to speak with David. If I had noticed something, anything that seemed off, maybe I could have prevented this." The case files grew to include thousands of pages of reports, witness statements, and expert analyses. Every lead, no matter how remote, had been investigated and documented. Yet the central question remained unanswered. What had happened to the Morrison family? In 2015, the case gained renewed attention when cold case detective Lisa Park was assigned to review the files using modern investigative techniques. Park spent months reanalyzing evidence and re-interviewing witnesses, hoping that time and new technology might reveal previously overlooked clues. "Cold cases benefit from fresh eyes and new technology," Park explained. "Techniques that weren't available in 2002 might be able to extract information from evidence that seemed useless at the time." Park's review uncovered several interesting details that had been lost in the massive volume of information. GPS data from other vessels in the area on October 12, 2002, showed unusual traffic patterns that hadn't been thoroughly analyzed during the original investigation. Multiple boats had converged on an area about 25 miles southeast of Miami Beach around the time the Morrison family disappeared, Park noted. Some of these vessels weren't part of the official search effort and had no documented reason for being there. However, tracking down the operators of these mystery vessels proved impossible. Many of the boats had been sold or scrapped in the intervening years, and their records had been lost or destroyed. The most frustrating aspect of Park's review was the realization that the case contained all the elements of a solvable mystery: witnesses, physical evidence, documented timelines. But somehow the crucial piece that would tie everything together remained missing. It's like having most of a jigsaw puzzle, but missing the one piece that reveals what the picture actually shows, Park observed. We know what happened up to a certain point, but then the trail just vanishes. As the 20th anniversary of the disappearance approached in 2022, the Morrison case had achieved an almost mythical status among maritime mystery enthusiasts. Online forums dedicated to the case attracted thousands of members who analyzed every detail and proposed increasingly elaborate theories. Some theorists suggested the family had been abducted by drug traffickers who had mistaken them for rival dealers. Others proposed that David Morrison had discovered something valuable on the ocean floor and had been silenced to prevent him from revealing the location. The most persistent theory involved government cover-ups and secret military operations. Proponents argued that the Morrison family had accidentally witnessed classified activities and had been eliminated to protect national security. However, FBI investigations found no evidence to support these claims. Maria Morrison Santos, Sarah's sister, had never given up hope of finding answers. She maintained a website dedicated to the case and continued to investigate new leads on her own. Her persistence had generated several promising tips over the years, though none had led to significant breakthroughs. "I know my sister is gone," Maria admitted during a 2023 interview, "but I need to know what happened to her family. They deserve justice, and we deserve closure." As 2024 began, the Morrison case remained one of Florida's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. The official file contained over 3,000 pages of documentation, but the fate of the second chance and its occupants remained unknown. What investigators didn't know was that their decades-long search was about to end in the most unexpected way possible. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, where the continental shelf drops into the abyssal depths, the Morrison family's yacht waited in the darkness, its light still burning after 22 years, holding secrets that would rewrite everything investigators thought they knew about that October day in 2002. The discovery that would finally solve the Morrison mystery came not from investigators or search teams, but from an unexpected source: a routine deep-sea mining survey conducted by Ocean Tech Industries in March 2024. What the remote-operated vehicle captured on its cameras that day would shock investigators and rewrite the entire understanding of what had happened to the Morrison family 22 years earlier. Dr. Elena Vasquez was monitoring the ROV Deep Explorer from the research vessel Atlantic Pioneer when the impossible image appeared on her screen. At a depth of 847 feet, in a previously unmapped underwater canyon, the vehicle's lights illuminated what appeared to be a pristine yacht resting on the ocean floor. But what made the discovery truly extraordinary was not just the vessel's remarkable preservation. It was the fact that lights were still glowing from within the craft after more than 2 decades underwater. At first, I thought there was something wrong with our equipment, Dr. Vasquez recalled. The image was so clear, so impossible, that my first instinct was to assume technical malfunction. But as we maneuvered closer, there was no denying what we were seeing. The yacht sat upright on a sandy bottom, as if it had been carefully lowered into position rather than crashed or sunk. Its hull showed no signs of impact damage, and the vessel appeared to be completely intact. Most remarkably, a warm yellow glow emanated from the cabin windows, suggesting that somehow, impossibly, the electrical systems were still functioning. Captain Maria Santos, who commanded the Atlantic Pioneer, immediately contacted the Coast Guard. Within hours, specialized deep-water recovery vessels were en route to the coordinates, and the Morrison family's 22-year mystery was about to be solved. Coast Guard Deep-Water Recovery Specialist Commander Jake Williams had overseen dozens of underwater salvage operations, but nothing had prepared him for what the ROV cameras revealed as they approached the second chance. The yacht's registration numbers were clearly visible, confirming its identity beyond any doubt. But the condition of the vessel defied everything Williams knew about maritime science. "In 20 years of deep-water recovery, I've never seen anything like it," Williams reported. "The yacht should have been completely deteriorated after 2 decades underwater. Instead, it looked like it had been submerged for maybe a week at most." The ROV's initial survey revealed that the yacht's windows were intact, its paint was unfaded, and even the canvas covers on the seating areas showed no signs of decay. More mysteriously, the depth gauges registered unusual readings in the surrounding water, as if the normal laws of pressure and chemistry were somehow suspended in the immediate vicinity of the vessel. Dr. Robert Chen, a marine archaeologist specializing in underwater preservation, was brought in to explain the extraordinary condition of the yacht. His initial theories focused on the possibility of unique chemical conditions in the deep-water canyon that might have prevented normal decomposition. Certain underwater environments can create preservation conditions similar to those found in some Egyptian tombs, Dr. Chen explained. Lack of oxygen, specific mineral contents, and stable temperatures can sometimes halt the normal decay process. But even under ideal conditions, we wouldn't expect to see preservation this remarkable. The decision to attempt recovery of the yacht was complicated by its extreme depth and the delicate nature of whatever had preserved it so perfectly. Recovery operations would require cutting-edge deep-water technology and could potentially destroy whatever evidence remained of the Morrison family's fate. Commander Williams assembled a team of the world's best deep-water recovery specialists. The operation would use a combination of ROVs, specialized lifting equipment, and a revolutionary new preservation chamber that could maintain the vessel's current environment during the ascent. As recovery preparations continued, investigators began analyzing the ROV footage for clues about what had happened to the Morrison family. The exterior cameras had captured images of the yacht's deck, which appeared to be set up for diving activities. Snorkeling equipment was neatly arranged near the stern, and Emma's distinctive art supplies were visible in a protective case. Most intriguingly, the yacht's anchor was not deployed. This suggested that the second chance had not sunk while at anchor, but had somehow descended to the ocean floor under different circumstances. The propellers showed no signs of damage, ruling out mechanical failure as a cause of the sinking. The recovery operation began on March 15, 2024, using a specialized lifting harness designed for deep-water archaeological recoveries. The team slowly began raising the second chance from its resting place. The process took 17 hours, with constant monitoring, to ensure the vessel's structural integrity remained intact during the ascent. As the yacht broke the surface for the first time in 22 years, investigators got their first close look at the mysterious vessel. The preservation was even more remarkable than the ROV footage had suggested. The yacht appeared to be in showroom condition, with no signs of marine growth, corrosion, or water damage. But the most shocking discovery came when investigators opened the cabin door. The interior of the yacht was completely dry. Not a single drop of water had penetrated the vessel's hull, despite its decades underwater. The cabin air was fresh and breathable, and all electronic systems were still functioning perfectly. Dr. Sarah Kim, the original Miami-Dade detective who had worked the case, was now retired but had been called in as a consultant for the recovery. Her emotional reaction to seeing the preserved yacht reflected the feelings of everyone who had spent years searching for the Morrison family. It was like stepping into a time capsule, Dr. Kim recalled. Everything was exactly as the family had left it that morning in 2002. Sarah's windbreaker was hanging in the closet. David's coffee cup was still sitting on the navigation table, half full. It was both miraculous and heartbreaking. The investigation of the yacht's interior revealed crucial evidence about the family's final hours. Emma's art journal contained detailed sketches of the morning's diving activities, including drawings of the coral reefs they had visited and marine life they had observed. Her final entry was dated October 12, 2002, at 1:47 p.m. The entry described an extraordinary discovery the family had made during their afternoon dive. According to Emma's notes and sketches, they had discovered what appeared to be an artificial structure on the ocean floor, something that didn't belong in the natural reef environment. "Found something incredible today," Emma had written. "Dad thinks it might be an old research station or submarine. It's perfectly preserved, just like it was built yesterday. The metal doesn't have any rust, and there are lights still working inside. Jake got some amazing photos." Jake's underwater camera was found in the yacht's equipment locker, its memory card still intact after 22 years. The digital photographs revealed the discovery that had captivated the Morrison family and ultimately led to their disappearance. The images showed a massive underwater structure that appeared to be artificial in origin. The facility was built into the side of an underwater mountain and featured large observation windows, docking bays, and what appeared to be sophisticated scientific equipment. Most remarkably, the structure was clearly inhabited. Figures in advanced diving suits could be seen moving through the facility's corridors. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the marine biologist who had last seen the Morrison family alive, was called in to analyze Jake's photographs. Her expertise in underwater research facilities helped investigators understand what the Morrison family had discovered. "This appears to be an advanced underwater research station," Dr. Walsh concluded. "The technology visible in these photographs is far beyond anything that existed in 2002, or even today. The pressure suits, the construction materials, the energy systems, it's all decades ahead of current capabilities." The photographs revealed why the Morrison family's discovery had been so dangerous. In several images, personnel from the underwater facility could be seen observing the Morrison family's diving activities. The final photographs on Jake's camera showed these figures approaching the family's diving area. David Morrison's personal log, found in the yacht's navigation station, provided the final pieces of the puzzle. His last entry, made at 2:23 p.m. on October 12, 2002, described the family's encounter with the facility's personnel. "They came up to us while we were diving," David wrote. "Advanced diving suits, technology I've never seen before. They were polite but firm. Told us we had seen something we shouldn't have. They explained that they had been monitoring our family since we first discovered their facility." According to David's account, the facility's personnel had explained that they were conducting long-term research that required absolute secrecy. The Morrison family's accidental discovery had compromised their security, but rather than harm the family, they had offered an extraordinary alternative. "They showed us things that shouldn't exist," David continued. "Medical technology that could extend human life for centuries. Environmental restoration techniques that could heal the ocean's damage. They offered us a choice: return to shore and risk exposure of their work, or join their research community permanently." The final entries in David's log revealed that the Morrison family had made an unprecedented decision. Faced with the opportunity to contribute to research that could benefit all humanity, they had chosen to fake their own deaths and join the underwater research community. "Sarah and I talked it over with the kids," David wrote. "This research could change everything, cure diseases, restore the environment, maybe even prevent wars over resources. The kids are excited about the educational opportunities. We've decided to stay." The log detailed the elaborate plan to stage their disappearance. The facility's personnel had used advanced technology to transport the family to their underwater research station, while leaving the second chance to drift and eventually sink. The yacht had been equipped with experimental preservation technology that had kept it intact on the ocean floor, serving as a potential time capsule if they ever decided to return to surface life. But the most remarkable revelation came in David's final entry. "They've offered us the chance to return to the surface world after 25 years of research. Emma will be 41, Jake will be 41. We'll have contributed to advances that will benefit millions of people. The choice will be ours in 2027. Dr. Elena Vasquez's analysis of the yacht's electronic systems revealed the source of the mysterious lights that had burned for 22 years. The vessel had been equipped with an experimental energy source that drew power directly from deep ocean thermal vents. This technology, far beyond anything available in 2002, had maintained the yacht's electrical systems indefinitely. The investigation took an extraordinary turn when investigators attempted to locate the underwater research facility shown in Jake's photographs. Using the GPS coordinates from the family's dive computer, deep-sea exploration teams searched the area where the structure should have been located. They found nothing but natural ocean floor. Advanced sonar mapping revealed no trace of any artificial structures in the area. It was as if the facility had vanished completely, leaving no evidence of its existence except for the Morrison family's photographs and written accounts. Commander Williams coordinated an expanded search of the surrounding area, but the results were the same. Whatever the Morrison family had discovered, it was no longer there, if it had ever existed at all. The case took another shocking turn when investigators discovered that the Morrison family was still alive. Using facial recognition technology and satellite surveillance data, intelligence agencies had located 4 individuals matching the family's current ages, living in a remote research community in the Antarctic. The community was operated by an international consortium of scientists working on advanced environmental restoration projects. The Morrison family had indeed spent the last 22 years contributing to research that had resulted in breakthrough technologies for ocean cleanup, renewable energy, and medical advances. Contact was finally established with the Morrison family in April 2024. David, now 67, Sarah, 64, and the twins, 38, had aged normally during their time in the research community. They had made significant contributions to projects that were now beginning to benefit the entire world. "We never intended to cause so much pain for our loved ones," Sarah explained during their first video call with investigators. "But we were sworn to secrecy about the research. The advances we've helped develop are finally being released to the public. Ocean restoration technologies, carbon capture systems, renewable energy breakthroughs." The twins had become leading experts in their respective fields. Jake had helped develop revolutionary underwater construction techniques that were now being used to build artificial reefs to restore damaged ocean ecosystems. Emma's artistic skills had been combined with advanced imaging technology to create detailed maps of ocean floor geology that were helping scientists understand climate change impacts. The Morrison family's decision to return to surface life had been complicated by the legal and emotional ramifications of their 22-year absence. They had been declared legally dead, their estates had been settled, and their loved ones had spent decades grieving their loss. Maria Morrison Santos, Sarah's sister, was among the first to be reunited with the family. Her emotional video call with Sarah was broadcast worldwide, providing closure for the millions of people who had followed the Morrison mystery over the years. "I always knew in my heart that Sarah was still alive somewhere," Maria said through tears. "But I never imagined anything like this. They've been saving the world while we thought they were gone." The Morrison family's return to society sparked global discussions about the ethics of their decision. While many praised their sacrifice and contributions to environmental research, others criticized their choice to abandon their loved ones without explanation. The family faced legal challenges related to insurance fraud, as their life insurance policies had been paid out following their presumed deaths. However, prosecutors ultimately decided not to pursue charges, given the extraordinary circumstances and the family's contributions to scientific advancement. The underwater research facility that had recruited the Morrison family was eventually revealed to be part of a classified international project aimed at developing technologies to combat climate change. The project had operated in secret for decades, recruiting brilliant individuals who were willing to sacrifice their normal lives for the greater good of humanity. Dr. Robert Chen, David's former business partner, struggled to understand his friend's decision. "Part of me is angry that David let us believe he was dead for 22 years, Chen admitted. "But when I see the advances they've helped create, the technologies that are now cleaning our oceans and reversing climate damage, I have to respect their choice." The Morrison family ultimately decided to remain in the research community, but with regular contact with their surface world, loved ones. They had found purpose and fulfillment in their scientific work that they weren't ready to abandon. Emma Morrison, now Dr. Emma Morrison Chen, had become a leading expert in marine ecosystem restoration. Her work, combining artistic observation with scientific analysis, had led to breakthroughs in understanding coral reef recovery patterns. "We sacrificed our old lives, but we gained something incredible," Emma explained. "We've been part of developing technologies that will restore damaged oceans, create sustainable energy sources, and help humanity survive climate change. It's been worth every difficult moment." The second chance was eventually donated to the Smithsonian Institution, where it became the centerpiece of an exhibit about maritime mysteries and environmental research. The yacht's preservation technology was studied and eventually led to advances in underwater archaeology and deep-sea research. The Morrison mystery had finally been solved, but its resolution raised new questions about the choices individuals might make when faced with opportunities to contribute to humanity's survival. The family's story became a symbol of sacrifice and dedication to scientific advancement, even at tremendous personal cost. Roberto Valdez, the Marina harbormaster who had spent 22 years watching for the Morrison family's return, was among those who welcomed them back to Miami Beach Marina. His nightly vigils at the pier had finally been rewarded, though not in the way anyone had expected. "They came back different people," Valdez observed. "Older, wiser, but with a sense of purpose I'd never seen before. They had become something more than just a family. They had become guardians of our planet's future." The Morrison family's incredible journey from a routine yacht trip to 2 decades of secret environmental research had finally come full circle. Their story would inspire generations of scientists and environmental advocates, proving that sometimes the greatest mysteries have the most extraordinary solutions. The lights that had burned for 22 years beneath the Atlantic Ocean had finally been extinguished, but the illumination they provided to humanity's future would continue to shine for generations to come.